You are now listening to Find a Way Daily.
Do you know someone who has talent that isn't doing enough for them? You find a way to reach the goal. You set goals and you knock them down. I don't care what obstacle comes up.
It only took me 2 months.
Really?
Yeah, I made $100,000 in 2 months from the time I hired him.
Life adjusts to your commitments, not the other way around. Today, I am with Tim Stout, CEO of Tim Stout and Associates. How you doing, Tim?
Great. Thanks for having me, David.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for being on. Tim helps a lot of buyers and sellers in what counties you got? Noonan and Fayette County, yeah?
Noonan, Georgia, Coweta, and Fayette counties.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so you're helping many families there, right? You, 2017, how many transactions did you finish with?
200.
So you pretty much sold the whole area, yeah?
There's a little more for me to get. But
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So Tim, you're obviously in the league, right? You're in our coaching program. We've been working together for a while. And I just think it's interesting for people to hear your story and how you came up. I mean, because people hear these amazing numbers of agents like yourself that are doing 200 deals a year. And they think 200 deals a year, like, did they get lucky? Maybe they were always that good. But give me a little bit of background. Like, what were you doing before you came into real estate?
before I got into real estate, I was a professional MMA fighter and I a MMA gym. So, and once I retired from fighting, I decided that I wanted to get into some type of sales because I felt like I was always the hardest worker in the room, and it was important to me to get paid what I was doing, not what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I knew a couple real estate agents, and I felt like it's something I could do well.
So interesting, right? So you came from a professional sports background and you wanted this idea of, look, I want to get rewarded and be able to not have a ceiling on my income and how much I can serve and help. And I want my results to be in direct proportion to how hard I work. Yeah.
Exactly right.
I think that's a big reason people get into real estate, right? Like, I think there's no limit on how much you can make. It's not like they're like, okay, you did 150 transactions, you're cut off, right? You can keep going, keep going, keep going. And so how long have you actually been in real estate then?
5 years.
5 years. Wow. Okay. So you've been in 5 years, and your first year in real estate, how many transactions did you do?
It wasn't a complete year, but I think from like to the end of the year, I think it was like 15.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you were selling, 15. That's pretty good, man. That's, most agents, I don't know if you know this, I think you know the stats, right? It's like most agents are doing anywhere 4, 5, 6 deals a year. And so to be not even a full year and do 15 transactions is pretty amazing. What do you think sets you, like from a buyer and seller's perspective? Let's say I'm a buyer or seller. What do you think separates Tim Stout and Tim Stout and Associates from the other agents in your marketplace?
Now,
Yeah.
definitely, we market hard, we market harder, and we do everything. Like a lot of these teams have a unique selling proposition that they use, but we have multiple ones. I mean, we've got more reviews than anybody online. So we use drone videos, we use professional photography, we do professional videos. Anything you can do, we're doing the 3D imagery, the Matterport. Anything that you can do, we're doing it. So
Yeah.
there's not a better USP than we do. And now it's even more important because we have the statistics to do it. And we got 99.7% of the list price of everything we've sold last year. Average time on market's like a little over a week. So we're moving properties.
Wow. So for the people watching this, USP, unique selling proposition, right? You have found some things that differentiate you and provide more value to the buyer and seller than most agents that are around, right? Like you found that. And matter of fact, it sounds like you said a lot of agents find one, but you've actually found multiple. And before we get into this other conversation that I want to get into about how you got there and kind of show, kind of lift the veil and show agents how you got there, I kind of want to ask you, like, where does that come from, right? Because obviously, if to come up with multiple unique selling propositions, you'd have to be obsessed, wouldn't you? You'd have to be like, how do I provide more value? Like always thinking about it, yeah?
Yeah, I think if you're truly wanting to come from a side of service, which you have to succeed in real estate, I have to give the 5-star service every time because you're only as good as your last sale. As a fighter, I was only as good as my last fight. As a pitcher, you're only as good as your last game. So every deal has to be a 5-star service. So once I found ways that could leverage my business and leverage the sale that much more, I would implement it. And most people don't want to do that. They want to keep a small business and they don't want to spend money to regain it. But I'll spend it if I'm going to receive it back, and it's better serve the clients.
Yeah, and so that's like something I wanted to get to later, but it might be a good time to mention now is like one of the things as your coach that I've recognized that separates you from a lot of people. I mean, I talk to thousands and thousands, I've trained over 20,000 agents, right? Like, and it's very noticeable to me what makes you different. We do a coaching call. I suggest 3 ideas, and if we're on the coaching call at 10:30, they're implemented by 12:30. Right? Like where a lot of people, they get an idea on YouTube, they go to a seminar, they do something like that, and they get these amazing ideas and they never implement it. Or it's kind of a coin toss, like 50-50, right? Like they might implement it, they may not. What percentage of your success do you think is predicated on your ability to go from idea to execution quickly?
I think the majority of it, because I'm in a market where I'm not from here. The following I have it's more like, this guy's been hitting the head for 15 years, more than it's like this guy can sell real estate.
Yeah.
So when I got into the business, I knew that I wasn't a highly educated guy. I wasn't the guy who knows a lot, but I've been told what to do my whole life. I've been coached my whole life from 9-year-old at a high level of karate to boxing, MMA. I've always been coached, and that's what I reach for. I mean, I was in the business I've been with you for 4 years, so. In a year, I was already reaching for the coach because I realized the importance of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that, right? Like as your coach, you're kind of like the dream client, right? Like I tell you, I suggest something like, look, what are you going to commit to? And you tell me 10 things. I tell a lot of people this, like if you commit to 10 things, you very, very rarely commit to something that you don't follow through on. Right? Like when you go, I'll do that, coach, you do it 99.9% of the time. Matter of fact, when you don't, I'm like completely shocked. I'm like, oh my God, it's been like 12 months and you finally didn't do something, right? You execute. Where does that come? Like, yes, you say it comes from, the background and you have coaching and all that kind of stuff, but does goals or your mindset, I mean, are there some days where you wake up and you're like, I'm exhausted, and then you do it anyway?
Every day. I mean, I'm not every day, but there's a lot of it. There's my best goal is to be number one. That's what I want to do. And now I'm number one in my marketplace. The only thing that drives me better than being number one is I knowing there's someone out there that wants it as much as I did. So I have to work even when I don't want to continue to grow my business. And now I've got a really good team implemented. So I have to be here and be that guy for them every day, even if I'm not that guy for me.
Yeah.
Forces me to be that guy.
Yeah. And so interesting, right? Because half the agents watching this right now will say, oh, well, he's got this big team, that's why he sells many, right? They come up with the excuses. I think a lot of people do that. They hold themselves back. They think, I'm going to come up with reasons why somebody else could be successful and I couldn't be. But before you had a team, I mean, at what point in transactions did we actually start building a team? I mean, how many transactions were you doing on your own before you started building that big team? Which isn't all that big.
Over 75 deals on my own with an assistant.
Right. And what's interesting about that, man, I don't know if you see this in real estate. People are like, I'm at like 12 transactions. I need to build a team. Have you seen that? And
I'm seeing it a whole lot here now.
It's like a fad.
That's exactly what it is.
And what would you say to people who, they're doing 12? At what point, if you could do it over again, you were building it again, at what point would you have started building a team? Would it have been the 75 transactions, or would you have done it a little earlier?
Knowing what I know now, like if I was to move to a complete new marketplace, like say I moved out with you, and I would build a team from day one because I know how to build a team.
Yeah.
If you don't know how, you hire somebody that does.
Right.
And because when me and you first started, it was like, I want to win at real estate. I remember telling you that, but I wanted to be able to make a good living without having to work every single deal. So I would start way earlier.
Yeah. And I think what else is important to acknowledge, right? So you have the people on your team, and I mean, the people on your team are doing a ton, like when other people talk to your teammates, they're like, whoa, they're killing it. I mean, what are some of your buyer's agents and people on your team? How many transactions are they doing?
Dexter, my lead buyer specialist, he's been with me for a little over a year. But his first full year was this past year, I believe, and he's closed over 60 deals. He's the number one buyer's agent in all of the Keller Williams Atlanta partners, and there's 8 Atlanta partners, and there's 1,800 agents. He's the number one.
Right. Like, and so people think like, my first year in real estate, is it possible to do that? But again, right, like we can, because I know Dexter too, I'm coaching him too, right? Like I know Dexter executes. He doesn't just go, oh, that's a nice idea, I tried it. He follows through over and over. I mean, I don't know if you remember this period of time, but there was a period of time where we were implementing a new marketing campaign, and it was like October, right? And then we did it for like October, November, December, and we weren't really getting the feedback from it that we wanted. But then March hit, right? Like that January, February, and then March hit, and you had this big explosion. Do you remember that?
That was the year. It was last year because all of a sudden I looked up and I remember in our meeting, I'm like, because I've got over 40 pending transactions right now, and that was because of the marketing. Once the market slowed down, we doubled up on the marketing.
Right.
And it took it about that long, about 5 or 6 months, and then we were tripping over deals.
And I think it's so important for people to hear that from you, because I think they think, I did a marketing campaign for a couple weeks and it didn't work, so I tried something else.
Yeah, I think you should at least, if you can't commit to 6 months, you shouldn't be doing it. If I need something to close in the first 2 months to be able to do it, but I think if you truly can't commit for 6 months, you either can't afford it or shouldn't be doing it at that time.
That is a very good piece. I actually wrote that down. Like if you can't do it for 6 months, don't even get involved, right? Like I've kind of noticed that. Go ahead.
It's a gamble. If you can't do it for 6 months, you're gambling. I'm throwing money at something hoping I get a return. But at 6 months, I can scientifically document statistics to see if this is going to work or this is not. And I'd rather know wholeheartedly it is or it isn't than to wonder.
Yeah, so it's going to work. And part of it, I mean, if we're just honest with it, what I teach a lot is you need to keep doing the marketing campaign because you need to experience the rhythm of the market. How the market is in January, February is not the same as it's going to be in March, April, May, June, and vice versa, right? Like we started in October and we knew that all that marketing would come to fruition, but it's just at it coming out to that, right? So what would you say, knowing what you know now? I mean, for a lot of people, you have reached the holy grail, right? Like less than 1% of the real estate population of agents will do 200 transactions. Very few. So you've kind of gone through this entire trail and you weren't gifted anything, right? You weren't fed a silver spoon. You literally built it from 15 transactions all the way up to that. And I know that a certain part of that, like you said earlier, was your obsession to serve, right? Like you're obsessed with serving at a higher level. But what would you say to the new agent that's getting in the business first year in real estate? What do they need to focus on mostly?
Your easiest leveraged activities. As far as what I would do, I would focus on my sphere and building my sphere. If I was going to be an individual agent for the rest of my life, I would go to every meeting I could. I would go to Starbucks for 2 hours a day. I would buy people's coffee. I would talk to people. I would exchange cards. I would do whatever it took for me to get in front of as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That guy. I'm like, oh, that's the real estate guy. That's that. And then you leverage it in a year, 2 years, when you know almost everybody. Then you start leveraging that as you're leveraging it the whole time. But the relationships is the one thing. Even last year at 2016, 125 transactions, over 60% of those transactions were directly from my sphere. And that's people that I've met somehow or been in touch with somehow. Yeah. And even now, I mean, I believe so much in the sphere. I mean, the other businesses that I'm creating, that you're helping me create. Yeah. For that same reason, they're to build my sphere so I can vertically grow my real estate business. Right.
And so what I find interesting, right? Like, so I'd like to teach a lot that like you're in real estate, how many billionaires have made their wealth off of real estate?
The majority of them.
Right. Correct. And yet agents are sitting in the middle of what makes people rich. And they do what I call working for tips. They're just working for commissions all the time, and they don't invest back into the thing that they sell to actually build wealth for themselves. And you've done that really well. I mean, you have been extremely, and the word I'm going to use is disciplined. You've been disciplined with your money. You've been, because a lot of agents, right? They make the money and they're like, woohoo, and then they go spend it all, and then they don't have any, and they're like, I made $500,000 and it broke. But you've been very disciplined with your money. You've been very disciplined with your habits, and that's the word that keeps coming up is discipline. How much of all this is built on your discipline?
Again, the majority of it, because momentum can get you so far, but you need the discipline to be able to, like, what's the old adage with the harder you work, the more things that are created. But without
The more luck you have. Yeah.
without discipline to keep implementing those things into your schedule, it's not going to happen. And you have to believe in your schedule. You have to believe in what you're trying to implement. But yeah, I believe discipline is huge. It's very big.
For sure, right? So whenever I think about that, because I played baseball before real estate, before coaching, and this path that I've been on, and I don't know about you, but I was always like, damn, it's leg day, right? Like I got to get under the squat rack. And even though that was my weak point, my legs were my weak point, I knew that if I didn't do leg day this week, next week was going to be even harder. And if I didn't do it then, it would be even harder. But the more consistent, matter of fact, I even started doubling up in the week on leg days so that it just became easier. So is what you're saying, the more disciplined you are, the easier it gets to be disciplined?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying without saying
It's
it.
a listing appointment.
No, close.
Yeah. So, okay, good. So what is a typical day like for, and I saw that you did, a day in the life of Tim Stout, which was a kick-ass video. But why don't you run down for our viewers here? Why don't you run down, what's a typical day for Tim Stout?
This starting January 1, it's changed a little bit because I'm not directly in sales, but
right.
I'm coaching and managing my team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still get up early. I mean, I'm still up by 5:30 p.m. First thing usually. Work out, go home, clean up, come back to the office. I'm in the office by minimum 9. I mean, if I'm here at 9, I'm late.
Yeah.
And I usually go through the hot sheets, find out what's pending, what's available. And the reason I do that, I need to know what's on the market. Even though I'm not actively in sales, I need to know exactly. I need to have my thumb on the market at all times, but also looking for opportunities for me to purchase. Like you was talking about real estate, the first question you need to ask yourself when you walk into any listing appointment or even a buyer's appointment, would I buy this house? And if I would, you figure out how. And so that way I know, and I feed a lot of investors and I have a lot of investments with some of my staff. So we're constantly doing that. And then I'll go into one-on-ones, which is like mini coaching sessions with my team.
Yeah.
To figure out what they're doing, how I can improve it, what they need from me, and even on a personal level, how I can assist them with their life, not just their business life. And then I'll go on appointments. I've joined the Chamber of Commerce this year, so we go on those events. And I just try to meet people. I'm the guy who wants to. My job now is to be the spider that builds the biggest web that catches the most bugs.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I remember the coaching call, and tell me if you remember this coaching call. I remember the coaching call where you called me and you said, "Hey, Coach, I was doing a video outside promo, and somebody drove by and yelled out the window, 'Tim Stout and Associates,' right?" And they said your slogan and everything.
That was free top restaurant video.
Yeah. And I was like, that's amazing. And another story that, just I think the viewers would get a kick out of here. Is it true that other agents have gone on listing presentations and then they said, well, yeah, we're also interviewing Tim. And they were like, you know what? Why don't I refer you?
We've had that happen, yeah.
That cracks me up every time that people on listing presentations are like, oh, okay, let me refer it. I mean, that's how you know you're not competing, you're dominating in the space. And so a typical day for you is what? You do your morning workout, sometimes you do 2, right? And then you're in the office by 9, you're looking for opportunities, then you're managing your team and doing your stuff, and then the afternoon probably changes depending on appointments, yeah?
It does. Up until January, I would go in and I would still be on listing appointments. Now my days lightened up. Like on Tuesdays, I teach at my MMA gym.
Yeah.
So I teach that night. But other than that, I'm home by 5 or 6, and it's
Yeah.
not
And,
bad.
I remember streaks of time where you were grinding and hustling, but, now you seem to get some vacation time throughout the year, right? You seem to get some time off now and then, yeah?
Yeah, we take me and my wife take, I'd say 2 or 3 long weekends a year and a couple like full week vacations. And
Yeah.
that's what we do. We don't have kids, and we build businesses and travel between both of us. We probably have 5 or 6 businesses, so
Yeah.
that's what we do.
You are both gamers for sure. There's one. I know you got to go do some stuff. There's one more topic that I want to discuss with the viewers here, and that is how much, because we've talked about discipline, we've talked about habits, we've talked about productivity. There's even been some leadership skills in there, right? There's been a lot of that. How much of your success is predicated on your sales and marketing skills?
A lot, especially the marketing. The marketing is huge. I remember the first piece of marketing advice I ever got. It was from my dad. I was getting ready to open up the MMA gym, and
Yeah.
my dad, he's one of these guys that didn't go to school. I mean, he's old school, but he's like, when he talks, you listen because he's full of that knowledge.
Wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. And he told me, he goes, Tim, he said, if you're having a cookout for 100 people, but people don't know you're cooking, nobody's coming to eat. And I remember that just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to tell everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into real estate. I knew that. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what to do that. And that's where you helped. But it's just, I did it, and I continue to do it. Like a lot of things, I think people getting coached, they work on, like if you're telling me to work on social media ads, I'll work on social media ads until you tell me to start working on something else. And then I'll let one go. And that's one thing that I don't do, is I keep that going, and then I build on the next one.
Yeah.
Something in my market that won't work in yours, or vice versa. But the ones that we've implemented and we've got strategies with that do work, I continue to build those. So marketing is huge. Sales training is, it doesn't matter how many people are coming for your cookout if you can't cook worth shit.
That's right. Yeah.
Sales comes in, and that's another thing they help me with, is how to talk to people and make them understand what I'm trying to say without bragging on myself. Because I'm very confident in myself through my past experiences.
You should be. Yeah.
But I can talk to them now and it not be like me gloating. It's like, look what we did for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
So that ability for selling has helped me a lot. So sales and marketing is, without either, you don't have a business.
Yeah. Right. Like what's that?
You have a hobby of selling real estate if you can't do either one of those.
Yeah, that's right. And so, I remember times where, early in our coaching days together, I'd be like, and you were taking lists, right? We were working on your sales skills, doing all that kind of stuff. And we were working on your listing presentation. And then I'd be like, hey, out of the last 10 listing presentations you've done, how many have you taken? You're like, oh, I think like 9. And I'm like, cool. Let me see your listing. Do you remember this? I said, let me see your listing presentation. You're like, I don't have one. I walk in with a contract. Like, do you know how many people want to be able to walk into a buyer or seller and be able to articulate their message, articulate their brand in such a way where the seller goes, I have to choose you, without even using visual propaganda or anything like that? Like, how much of that influence, because I do think you're ridiculously influential. So how much of that influence is, or how much of your success is predicated on that ability to talk to somebody who's a maybe or a no and turn them into a yes?
It's a lot, because of what me and you worked on early on is the omnipresence marketing. I'm anywhere you there. I'm on the flyers. I'm on social media. I'm on Zillow. I'm on everywhere you can be. That's where I'm at. So whenever I show up, people are just like, that they can't argue it. And then when I bring in statistics and facts, they can't argue it. I was walking out of my office the other day, going to a listing appointment, and one of my buddies, real estate agent, and we're always like, that guy you love to hate, it's me and him. We're always back and forth.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you going to listing appointment with jeans? I'm like, yeah. He goes, your jeans has a hole in it. I was like, and I'm going to get the listing. And I did. Who I am because of my presence. They don't
That's right.
They know who I am. And
so what's interesting about that is this, and I think I told you this before, and it's the reason we took the angle that we did, in my opinion, is that you can only be so influential. This is one of the things I'm going to be talking about at Sales Impact Academy. You can only be so influential. And now the rest of and I think that's why a lot of people get to about 5 or 6 out of 10. They get to about 50, 60% of the time they're closing. The rest is you setting the circumstances before you even walk in. Yeah. It's like the conditions that are set up for them to say yes to you. Like you walk in, they know you better than you know them. Well, maybe not because you've qualified and all that kind of stuff, but you know what I mean? Like they already feel like they know you because they've seen your videos, they've seen your marketing, they've seen your pre-listing package, they've seen all the stuff already, that when you walk in, it's a natural progression to list with you or, you know, buy a home with you. So that is awesome. Is there any piece of information that you want to tell our viewers out there that they should know about getting to 200 transactions?
Something you just spoke on about getting to that with the buyers and sellers is a lot of the sales language that you've worked with me on is when I talk to my sellers, it's not about when or if you do this. It's when you sign, when you go under contract. I'm talking to them as if they've already signed the contract. So there's not an argument. When I say I need you to sign here and here, and this is where we're going to list it at. And there's no like, well, I think it's more. I mean, I've not got that in forever. I think we should go higher. And I'm like, no, this is the statistics. This is the highest we can possibly go, and where you sign. And they're like,
and it's because of that assumptive language, right?
Exactly. And one of my biggest, what people talk about, like, well, everybody wants to haggle. I said, we don't worry about the hagglers. I worry about the hagglers. It's my job to negotiate.
Yeah.
You price it where it'll sell, and I'll make sure we get that. And that's what my hustle is that.
Yeah.
And agents know not to be coming in all low because it's not going to work.
Yeah. Because even with that, right, like you've got your objection handlers and have all those, right? In NLP or something we're going to talk about Sales Impact Academy, it's temporal presuppositions, right? Like that's really what you're talking about, that assumptive language, after, when, since, during, like after we list the property today. Like we're going to be talking a lot about that. For all of you who want to look Tim up, where should they find you?
Probably Facebook would be the best one. Noonan Homes for Sale or Tim Stout and Associates.
Cool. Awesome. And then, I appreciate you being on here and taking the time, man. I know your time is extremely valuable, and I know you got a lot going on, man. So I appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate you having me, David.
Hey, my friend, if you know somebody who could use this message, please give it to them. Share it with them as a gift. When we uplift other people, it uplifts our lives as well. And if you want more training, you want more insights, you want more lessons on how you can perform, persuade, and produce at higher levels inside your business and life, please come visit us at davidkeesee.com. Again, that's www.davidkeesee.com. Until I talk to you next time, my friend, go find a way.